With how the furry fandom is still a new and emerging community of people with a common interest in anthropomorphic animals, I think that's the definition, people outside of the fandom may have some negative preconceived notions towards furries in the fandom overall. In turn, a common societal feeling of distaste for the fandom from very specific stereotypes or events can occur. But why is that? Heyo guys, my name's BetaEtaDelota, and today we'll be talking about something a little bit different instead of the usual furry things series. It is furry related though. It's almost like I enjoy doing this. Something that I think needs to be discussed and understood more is why furries have such a notoriety in the public eye, and where this bitterness for a group of people with a common interest stems from. I know a bunch of videos are out now that talk about why the news and media outlets portray furries in a negative or inaccurate manner, which as of now this has been drilled into your head. People love seeing negative stuff on the news and it gets views. Link to Kortsuski's video in the description. I know I talk about this every single video, but he does such a better job explaining it than I do. Now these videos are helpful in understanding public knowledge based on what the news reports, but I think people may need a refresher on how certain things can be seen as weird or different, especially in groups of people with similar interests, which relates with how the furry fandom is what it is. A different, but also very new interest or hobby in which people who are not aware of its purpose may initially be scared of or disgusted by it. Now hopefully with what I say, people can change their way of thinking about furries. Good one, dipshit. Or I hope what I say may help people reconsider their way of thinking about certain groups of people with a similar interest they hate or might find weird. That's a bit better. Along with that, what I ask for you guys is to have an open mind with trying to understand some of these topics or ideas I discuss, because we're talking about why furries are seen as weird. Now right off the bat, I just want to state that the concept of something having the trait of being weird is completely relative to each individual who has bias, which is everyone. A simpler way to put this is that everything can be seen as weird for any specific reason, because each individual has a varying reason behind that opinion, whether it be a good or bad part of the object of interest. And this kind of plays into the idea that on YouTube, there is no such thing as a perfect video, where someone, for some reason, will dislike or despise the video no matter how good it may be, because people are crazy. Now a topic to move off of this idea is that even though people have varying opinions on why something is weird, there's also the idea of a joint opinion, which relates to how today's society as a group views certain aspects of an object of interest. This would be the idea of something becoming mainstream, where an opinion or a certain object of interest is popular or common in society. That was a lot of info, and I only understood half of it. But now that we've explained the concepts, let's put this into the context of the furry fandom, a group of people with a common interest in anthropomorphic animals, fursuits, and lots of snuggles. Oh my god, I love the snuggles. Seriously though, I'm gonna be at Anthrocon, just snuggle me, I'm lonely. Now similar to every other group of individuals with a common interest, the furry fandom has its bad apples, or people who can misrepresent the fandom within different contexts. Because the furry fandom is an open community where anyone is welcome with open arms, which is a good thing by the way, this can lead to some not so good people or bad apples joining. But what if I told you that the concept of bad apples in a fandom or community is only relative to the negative opinions of society and outsiders towards that group? As I explained earlier, anyone can have a negative opinion on something, but the joint opinions are the ones that need to be concerned with the most because it's more mainstream. And in turn, mainstream is the public opinion. After talking with and interviewing multiple individuals about the furry fandom, one of which was Riley, who called me a faggioli for being a furry, they revealed to me that they don't explicitly hate furries, but they only find them weird because of the whole having sex in fursuit thing. Other than that, they don't mind them since they keep to themselves. Now even though this is nowhere close to a statistically accurate representation of feelings towards the fandom, I know this because I took 5 years of stats, we can see that most people would find furries to be weird because of how they have sex in fursuit, which they know this because news and media classifying this as a fetish, you get the picture. So with everything just talked about in mind, that specific reason for furries being weird is more mainstream than others. Even looking further into it, other factors of weirdness seen by fandom onlookers such as zoophilia, some fursuit heads looking creepy, the idea of dressing up as an animal and thinking you're that animal, all these factors play into why the furry fandom can be seen as weird but aren't the primary or mainstream reasons. Along with that, some of these topics relating to the furry fandom aren't covered as much by the news, just the fetish portion. Why are you guys like this? Which in turn explains why people have more of a problem with it than the other reasons that I stated. And so with that, I think I've fully explained why furries are seen as weird and how it even happens. It's just normal negative human emotions and how everyone has a different mindset, where those mindsets can come together into one common opinion and create a mainstream feeling, even if it's negative. So for those in the furry fandom, me absolutely included, you're probably asking what we can do to stop these negative stereotypes towards what we like and what we do. I have two answers for this. One is to have a furry inquisition, painful but quicker results. And as for the second answer, it's pretty simple but it takes some time. Be the change that you want to see in the world, or in this case, the fandom. The video I just made about Sonic Fox doesn't just apply to celebrities or popular individuals in the fandom. Anyone who has some connection with the outside world and has friends that function normally in society can make the change. All of you guys can be representatives of the furry fandom, but the way you choose to portray yourself as a furry to the public has an impact on the fandom itself. For example, if you hear people make derogatory comments about furries, don't go and beat the crap out of them or act hostile. Just move on and keep going with your day. Eventually, people may start to warm up to or accept furries if they see that it has no real negative impact on how the individual is. If they act like normal people and are furries on the side, there isn't really something wrong with that. Unless people are nosy or ignorant, but that's just people. My coworker also told me this when I interviewed him about furries. I see furries similar to gay people a couple of decades ago. After some time, people were okay with gay individuals and let them be happy. There was no big issue unless people were disgusted by it. I see furries in the same boat, where eventually they will be more accepted as their own group with a similar hobby if they mind their own business and keep doing what they're doing. So even for someone who has a distaste for furries, and who has called me a faggioli for being one, he still acknowledges that sometime in the future we will be more accepted for our own hobby. With that, I can only say it again. Be the difference that you want to see in the fandom. And that about does it for this video, guys. Apologies if the organization here was kinda all over the place with the points I made and what I was trying to emphasize. I've had severe writer's block for the last week and haven't been able to figure out what I want to say for this video, let alone what I want to do for a video. So please let me know what you thought of this in the comments below. Along with that, I just want to clarify that I have absolutely nothing against people who have intercourse in fursuit or the lewd side of the furry fandom. I for one am utilitarian, so whatever makes people happy is what I try to push for. And I might have a few maverick dick pics stored somewhere. Oh, come on, whoever said I don't like lewd stuff? Just please take what I say lightly and be nice to each other in the comments. But yeah, that's about it, guys. See you later and take care.